Hey there, this is Schism. I got a 2,500 point pitch battle for you. My Empire versus Ogres. Starting with my army here on the left, I have two cannons way in the corner here for a very solid reason. I'll get to that later. And here you also see my captain on a Pegasus with enchanted shield, full plate mail, luck stone, and sword of might. Now he's facing the wrong direction. That looks kind of silly at the moment, but you'll find out why he's facing that direction in a little bit. And the meat of my army here, I have 20 swordsmen down below here with no command whatsoever. In there I have my level 4 with a Dispel Scroll on the Lore of Light. He rolled up Speed of Light, Faz Protection, Net of Omnitalk, and Light of Battle. In that unit, there's also my Captain BSB with full plate mail and a shield. Right in front of them is a unit of 50 halberdiers with a full command, a warrior priest with just a heavy armor and a shield. He's just a hatred giver there. In the middle, I have 30 great swords, and in there you will find my Archlector, the general, with armor of meteoric iron, dawnstone, and a great weapon. Behind there, I have my torture rack here with which is a Hurricanum for the +1 to hit and the extra power dice. And next to that unit, I have 30 swordsmen with a banner and a musician. And rounding out my forces on the far right here, I have 2 units of 3 demigryph knights. Now starting on my opponent's left, he has a saber tusk. Then he has a unit of 14 iron guts with a banner of discipline. Bruiser BSB in there with armor of silvered steel, a luck stone, and a great weapon. In there he also has a tyrant with armor of destiny, ogre blade, iron fist, and potion of foolhardiness. And I'm not looking forward to fighting that unit. Every time you fight an iron gut unit like this, especially if you don't have any sort of shadow magic or anything that can deal with the ogres in droves, it's always an uphill battle. So not really looking forward to that. But right to the right of that unit, he's got 9 bulls with iron fists. He's got his level 4 on the maw. He's got an armor of fortune, iron fist, sword of might. He rolled up brain goblet, tooth cracker, troll guts, and spine marrow. And right to the right of that, he has 4 lead belchers. And right next to those 4 lead belchers, he has 2 Mournfang cav. He has a saber tusk to the right of that. And behind there, you can't see them, but they're actually in the building. There's 4 more lead belchers. And to the right of that, he has another saber tusk. Now, what you don't see here that he hasn't deployed yet is he has 2 gorgers that are going to come on the board edge during his, or start trying to roll to come on during turn 2. So that's exactly why I have my captain on a Pegasus facing the wrong direction, because I know that that's really the only juicy target for the gorgers. That's their job. They're going to go after those war machines. And it's that Pegasus Knight's job to look after the war machines. As you can see here, this is Ogre's turn 1, and he just moved 12 inches as fast as he could right for me. Now you can see the gap here from this picture that he is already right in my grill. There's nowhere for me to go except back up a few inches here. But his Ogres did take 2 wounds from the dangerous terrain as he crossed the marsh. In here you can see his Mournfang moves up a little bit and angles to face off against my demigryphs. His saber tusks move up to try and harry the flank here with my other demigryph knights, and his lead belchers move up to fire at my demigryphs. But to no avail. And my turn 1, as you can see, I take my far right demigryphs, I wheel them and move them as far as I can behind the building to get back into the action, because his lead belchers in that building, I'm not going to charge into the building. I don't want to lose. I don't want to dismount and fight my 3 knights versus those lead belchers. It's completely futile. So I take him, I wheel him, and I move him more to where the meat of the combat's going to be. I move the other unit of demigryph knights straight up to the fence so I can benefit from some cover. And if he does decide to charge me, at least he'll be -1 to hit in the first round. And I don't think 2 Mournfang will be able to take out 3 demigryphs. I've done it over in my head. I've rolled it out, and I'll eventually grind him down. He might do a few wounds, but he's not gonna be able to take care of me, especially with -1 to hit in the first round of combat. Barring I don't suffer too much from impact hits. And then, as you can see in the middle, I just move back about 2 inches with everything. Just because I put it, when I move back, I put him about 14.5 inches away. So he only need a 9 with his ogre units to charge me, which is, it's doable, but he's going to have to earn it. And I take the swordsman unit of 30 because they're just an anvil anyways. I don't really care about them too much. I move them up a little bit and I angle them. So if he does want to charge him, hopefully he won't break my steadfast. I'll stick, and then I can stick my great swords into his flank. And this whole time, all 3 of these units here are getting +1 to hit, so can't go wrong with that. In the magic phase, I cast Speed of Light on my halberdiers, just in case he happens to make it in. I figure that's the juiciest target, so at least their weapon skill initiative 10, that'll kind of push his ogres more towards the middle. And with the great sirs, at least I'm stubborn. And I do cast the Net of Amnatok on his great weapon ogres here, just so, you know, hopefully he'll fail it, and if he doesn't, then he doesn't. But if he does, then that buys me a whole turn to shoot at him, which I'm okay with. In the shooting phase, I fire my first cannon. I fire it straight diagonally through so I can hit a whole bunch of ogres. I wound them. I roll 1 wound, the cannonball stops. The second cannon, I go straight through the whole entire unit again. I wound the first ogre, and then I roll 2 wounds. So 2 cannons fire, and I take off a whole ogre. That was fantastic. In his next turn, ogre's turn 2, he fails his charge with his iron guts, and so he moves up. He rolls double 1, so only moves up 1 inch. And then he charges with his ogres again over here, the bulls, and he fails his charge also. And he takes 1 more wound from the dangerous strain, which finishes that last ogre there. And he moves his saber tusk up here to just block off my halberdiers. He also takes his lead belchers and he puts them right in front of my demigriff's face to try and make pizza pie out of him. So at least he won't have the long range penalty this turn with his lead belchers. In the magic phase, he goes to cast Spine Barrow off on my swordsman unit, and he miscasts. Not Spine, a Brain Gobbler, that is. He tries to make him take a panic test to try and flee off the board. Since I push back, I'm so close. If I take a panic test and I fail, I'm just going right off the board. So he tries to get it, and he miscasts, and he rolls a 10, and he lowers his levels by 2, and he forgets Troll Guts and Brain Gobbler. So that's fantastic, especially since now my level 4 Light Wizard should have free reign and be able to cast with impunity. And I don't have to worry about Troll Guts, because regen is always a pain. His lead belchers open up here, and he just takes off a whole entire demigriff, which is pretty dang good. So there's that. My turn 2, I take those 2 behind the barricade. I take my dangerous train test. I pass them. I just throw them right into the lead belchers. No problem. The 2 saber tusks that were on the far right were actually within a couple inches of these demigriffs, and he march blocked me, so that's why I was only able to move up 7 inches here. I wanted to try and get him up 14 and then definitely get a for sure charge into the side of his bulls if they were still there next turn, but I'll have to deal with just a straight 7. His Gorger came in on his turn, and so I took my captain and I slammed them into the Gorger. And then I take my main battle lines. My halberdiers stay still, my greatsword stays still, my bunkers stay still, my hurricanum stays still. But I take this unit of swordsman and I inch him up ever so slightly to try and bait a charge in there. Once again, just so I can try and get something in his flank if he does go for it. And this picture here, there's no equation. That was me just screwing around with the symbols. So, yeah, I don't know what exactly equation it's looking for. But the equation for this particular picture is I roll 11 for my power dice, and he gets 6, and I get +1 for my Hurricanum. So I have 12 dice in this phase, and I throw 3 at Foz Protection. It gets off at a high number, and he tries to catch it, and he fails. So I get off Foz Protection bubble. I get off Speed of Light bubble. I get off Net of Amnatok on his caster's unit. And then I have 4 dice left over, and I throw 5 up wards on both these my great swords and my halberdiers. And in the top, you can see I fire both my cannons again. I hit all the way through the unit from the corner there with both of them. I wound, and I do a total of 2 wounds with them. So frustrating, frustrating. My Demogryphs go in. I take 4 wounds off him. He does none in return. He needs a 5 to stick. Oh no, he's still steadfast because he has a rank, so he sticks around here, which is annoying because I really wanted to break through, but oh well. In the combat here, my captain on a Pegasus, he only is able to do 1 wound, and the Gorger doesn't do any in return. Loses combat, unbreakable though. He just loses his frenzy. So Ogre's turn 3. His big Gut Star unit here fails the charge again. Now, I don't remember exactly what I needed, but it was not a lot. They're too busy doing Mambo number 5 to actually get into combat, apparently. So he just moves his Saber Tusk up here to get right in my Halberdier's grill, which is going to cause me a lot of issues. And the netted Bull unit with his caster, well, they fail their net test to charge, so they're stuck there. And that other, the 6th there, is he actually fails to cast because the net stops him casting as well. And I actually, with a D6 strength 4 hits, I was able to take off a whole entire ogre with that net. So I don't usually use net too often, but in this game, it has been aces for me. His other Gorger comes in to make pizza pie out of my cannon crews, and since my captain of Pegasus couldn't finish off this one, well, I guess he might just get dinner after all. He fires in the combat here. The Demigryph take off another ogre, and the ogres lose combat, and I can't chase him down quite yet. And then his lead belchers over here, they get out of the building, they move up 6, and they take a wound off of my Demigryphs here. And my turn's coming up next, so I don't really have to worry about those ogres rallying. So in the combat over here, again, my captain does 2 wounds this time to the Gorger, and the Gorger can't hurt me in return. And I have to say, I'm so happy I took Sword of Might on this guy. That Strength 5 makes all the difference in the world. Otherwise, this combat would have never gone anywhere. I can't stress enough that Strength 5 on the Pegasus captain is just... I can't tell you how many games between taking out Doom Wheels to anything. That Strength 5 is critical. At least I believe so. My turn 3, I take my Demigryphs. I charge his lead belchers off the board. I take my 30 swordsmen, since he failed his charge because of the net. I take my 30 swordsmen and I plow him into his 9 bulls with his caster. I take my Demigryphs I rerouted from the other side, and I charge them into his flank. Now, the one bad thing I didn't see about this is that takes me out of my 12-inch bubble range for all my bubble spells, which proves to be an issue against units like ogres. Without those bubble spells, swordsmen, at least halberdiers are strength 4. It's -1 to armor. Great swords, at least they're -2 to armor, strength 5. I have the Hurricane back there. It's +1 to hit. Now, when I charge these swordsmen out on their own, he's getting his parry. He's getting his full save. I need 5s to wound him. It's just a battle it's best not fought. So, there you have it. I leave my other 2 units here. I just have them sitting around waiting for my magic phase, because I really need magic. And I don't want to roll a bad magic phase and not and hope that I roll something decent and where I can buff my guys in combat. I'm gonna make him come to me. So with his only level 2, once again, I throw 3 dice at fast protection. I roll high, and he tries to chase it because otherwise he's gonna be, batting at flies all day. So he doesn't get it. I get bubble 5s. I get bubble speed of light, and I put up a 5-up ward on my halberdiers. I put a 5-up ward on my great swords, and I even had dice left over. I didn't even bother casting light of battle. I didn't want to risk it, and I could have used my hurricane as bounce spell, or I could have used a whole lot of things. I didn't want to get too greedy. Even though bounce spells you can't dispel, at this point I was just feeling bad for my opponent because he couldn't catch it. My magic was on fire. So with this freshly alive Gorger, I take my 2 cannons and I go to grape shot. The first cannon I grape shot, I roll 2, and I don't do any wounds. I barely even hit. My second cannon, I roll 8. Alright, and I hit 5 times there, and I don't get a single wound through. So, actually, with the 2 I had from the first shot, I did do a wound with the first grape shot. The second one, I hit 8 times. I wounded. I wasn't able to wound at all. Strength 5, toughness 5, nothing. So that was frustrating. I was hoping I would be able to take off that Gorger, but wasn't meant to be. So in the combat here, I end up doing 7 or 8 wounds to him. I got a flank. I got a charge. I end up winning combat, but he ends up sticking around, which is most unfortunate. Unfortunately, the swordsman just gave up too much I know the demigriffs aren't going to give it combat res, but the swordsman, between his attacks and stomps, it was just he was able to do enough to where he only needed a 5 or a 6 to stay in. I think it was a 5, but he ended up sticking. Over here, the captain finally takes care of that Gorger and turns to face the other one. Hopefully, it's not too late to save that cannon. And then in his turn 4. He charges. Finally, he's able to get this charge off with his Gut Star. And he could have sat and waited around more, but I think he wanted to get this game over with. So he just took his Gut Star and rammed it in. And I can understand the logic behind it, but I did have all those buffs up. So, Also, he took his Saber Tusk for some combat res. He charged it in the rear of my Demigriffs, charged the other one into my Swordsman. So he'll be getting +2 for a rear and a charge here. He opened up with his Lead Belchers, and he didn't put a scratch on the Demigriff Knights. He moved his Mournfang up here to get a rear charge on my Demigriff Knights if that combat's still around. His Gorger went into my cannon. He killed 2, and I managed to put a wound on him, but I stuck around, which is awesome. So I guess a chance for my captain on Pegasus to come in and hopefully save him. The combat with his bolts. You can see my swordsman just gave up a myriad of copious amounts of combat res. And this is them running around, or I should say running away from the combat. And he passed his test to reform. Well, he didn't have to pass the test. He just reformed to face my Demigriff Knights. So that was no good. Stupid swordsman. And there's just another picture here. You can see reform to fight my Demigriffs. And his Saber Tusk is still in this combat here. Now, the challenge was issued with his Tyrant, and I accepted with the champion in the Great Swords unit. And he actually survived, which is amazing. The Tyrant had his 5 attacks with the Ogre Blade. He needed 5s to hit me because of fast protection, and the hits he did get, I managed to deflect with his 5+ Warrior Priest ward save, which was awesome. He charged his Saber Tusk into my Warrior Priest here in the far left Halberdier unit, and he was able to dispatch him. No big deal. Just give me some more combat res. And, needing 6s to hits was huge on his Iron Gut unit. I mean, he did some damage. You can see I'm missing about 7, 8 or 9 of my Halberdiers. Most of that's from the impact hits. I'm missing 5 or 6 of the Great Swords. But all in all, I chopped down like 4 of his Ogres, I want to say. and between my ranks and my banners and all that stuff. He was testing on double ones or a 3, and he failed his break test, and I ran him down. So this is the last picture of the battle, because after he lost his gut star, which is all his points, 14 iron guts, his tyrant, and his BSB, yeah, he would have been, my great swords would have been primed to go into the rear or the flank of his other bull unit, and that would have left pretty much nothing on the board. So that's this is the last picture of the battle. Some notes. Lorelite, it's pretty boss, especially if you have an advantage over your opponent in the magic phase. Getting some of these buffs off, especially the bubble if you have a lot of infantry. It's just, I mean, he needed 6 to hit me with that gut star. You know, sure, whatever he hits me with is gonna kill me, but you know the 6s. You know, it really, you know, if you have 18 attacks, you're talking 3 are gonna hit statistically. And that combined, if you need that to hit me, and I got, you know, speed of light, so I'm weapon skill 10, +1 to hit from the Hurricane, I was hitting him on 2s with a reroll because of hatred. So everything I was throwing at him was hitting, whether I wound or not. But you know, Lorelite, I for my Empire, you know, all the way. Cannons, you know, what can I say? You know, they hit or miss. There was no big Gribblies to really, you know, blow off the board this game. But, you know, I figured I'd be able to take off at least a couple of Ogres chewing. But every time I went to roll the wound, I rolled a 1 or a 2 for wounds. So, not the best showing for cannons. The Pegasus Captain. Now, this is something I've been on the fence with for a while. But I've found a lot of use in him. Just his flexibility to do what he could do or might need to do. Whether with this army, it lacks a lot of the chaff. He's just there to mitigate the opponent's chaff and really stop stuff from getting into the cannons. He pretty much is a cannon babysitter. Now, I'd assume if the opponent has something worthy enough to go after, you know, like a cannon of its own or something like that, yeah, he'd fly up to take care of that. But as far as, you know, being a troubleshooter, he's legit. Failed charges. I mean, this game pretty much boiled down to failed charges. He gave me enough time to wait for me to wait for him to miscast, and then once he did, once I had magic dominance with Lorelei, I was just able to ruin his day. Failed charges. That's what it boiled down to. He just couldn't get him at the critical times. Any openings he had, he just stutter stepped his way to a loss with his charges. So yeah, quite advantageous for me, quite frustrating for him. And that just leads to the miscast, which was most inopportune for him. And it really, once I got that, you know, that advantage over him, I was able to just, you know, pile on magic and ward saves and all kinds of stuff to stem the tide in my favor. So good game. Thank you to my opponent, and thank you.